YouTube and books and just finding a community where your passions align would put you in such a better position than college.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to All Things Everyday, where we work to bring back the art that is the everyday conversation. I am your host, Albert, as always, joined by my lovely co-host, Aditi. What's going on?
Hi.
Today, what do we have for them today? What do we have?
Today, we're doing another one of our segments of the show called the Everyday Hustle, where we're just going to talk about our life and things that we have got going on, things that we're implementing and learning, how to be better people, how to be more successful, and just our everyday hustle.
That's right. As some of the people may know, you are currently in college.
Mm-hmm.
You are working towards medical school, the pre-med route into becoming a doctor. Yes?
Yes, I am a senior, ready to graduate almost.
Here we go.
One more year.
So that is your hustle, while my hustle is building my real estate business to something that is self-sustaining and achieving financial freedom that way. So I think in that perspective that we have very different everyday hustles. Our everyday tasks are different, and we have very different things that are requiring our attention, yet I think the same skill sets apply.
Yes, very different though.
So on this episode of The Everyday Hustle, I think it'd be great to bring your perspective into what college is like today. Of course, when I went to college, it was different because that was a pre-COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
That thing didn't exist when I went to college. So I want to hear the perspective of what it's like going through college in today's day and era, because you've seen it all the way through, I think, your experience.
Yeah, it was kind of odd because I go to Arizona State University and I was a freshman. And during my second semester of college, that's when COVID really hit. And we were off to spring break. And there were rumors that we were never going to come back from spring break. And it was true. We never came back. And it took a turn, I would say, kind of for the worst for me. I didn't really learn that much. I want to hear your perspective later on, too.
What happened? Let's back up. So no one came back, right? Beforehand, everyone was in person. All was normal. Campus was hustling and bustling. Activities everywhere, right? So then once the height of the pandemic hit and the governor shut everything down, what happened in terms of classes?
Yeah, it took a little hiatus and then everything went online. No one knew what was going on. Tests were confusing and people just started learning how to use Zoom, and that's when it really became popular. And it was just a confusing time for everyone. And I think for me, just learning, going from in person, waking up and having that routine to go to class with your friends to just completely online. And I was at home because dorms, they kicked you out of your dorms. Like ASU, the campus shut down, much like the other campuses across the U.S. And yeah, it was just difficult. Just navigating Zoom, navigating Canvas is what we use. Just these online platforms that weren't that useful before.
How did you say ASU handled that switch?
I think very poorly.
Expand on that.
It is difficult to say because obviously I don't know back end, but there were a lot of people struggled mentally. A lot of people struggled financially because there were a lot of concerns that we were paying tuition as if we were going in person, getting the same experiences, research, internships, all these things, but you were just staying at home. So it's like, why are you paying $30,000 upwards of that for just being at home?
On a computer.
And it was like a YouTube video, basically, right? Just on Zoom.
What would you say the quality of education was at this point in time?
Well, Arizona, as many of you know, is not the greatest at education in the first place, but it was very difficult because I think even now, as a senior, I think I learned more from Chegg than I have.
Really?
From campus, yeah, from school.
Wow. What's the definition then of learning? Because obviously I have a different view on college because clearly, even though I got my degree, I don't use it. I quit my full-time job that I got my degree for, and now I'm pursuing something of financial freedom and entrepreneurship. Whereas your path is you really need that secondary education, that higher education, because as a doctor, that's not something I can, go on Google and learn as I'm practicing. That's something that's you need training, you need formal education to do. So as you're going through this COVID transition of where everything went online, like what changed with college? Like what did you expect from your full college experience to everything that you went through, and what is it now?
I went into college, and remind you again that COVID happened during my freshman year. And I went into college expecting the full, like, I wanted to join a sorority, I wanted to make a bunch of friends, do a bunch of clubs, all this stuff. But with college being online, I had to learn all by myself. Like my professors, I could not reach them. Many of them didn't even answer their emails. And so it was more so like self-taught. So all of these biology courses that I had to take for med school, I just self-taught everything. So it was like consuming more of my time.
When you say self-taught, define that.
Google. Just
Really?
trying to just teach myself. Khan Academy was my best friend. Still is. Chegg. I use Chegg not just for quick answers, but just to learn from them because they post formulas and things like that. And it's so disappointing that such a big university like ASU could not provide enough resources for students just to learn.
Wow. So it sounds like to me that the education kind of just went out the window. Like it sounds like ASU did everything in their power to keep from issuing refunds, because not once did you mention that you got a refund for anything that was happening.
Nope. We couldn't cancel our meal plans. We only got like a $1,500 refund for our dorms, which are a lot more than $1,500.
Right.
And I don't know, because I've seen it on Reddit too during the height of COVID, where a lot of students from other universities all over were using Chegg or even Course Hero. And it's disappointing to know that teachers would still use such simple and easy material that we could find answers on Chegg. Like, is that really learning if you're just copying and pasting?
Regurgitating what's already out there.
Yep.
That just sucks. Like hearing about it, because I think college has evolved into something that's really not necessary. Like there's too many politics involved. There's not learning anymore.
Yeah.
Like education, I think, is different than learning in terms of the application of the certain things that are being taught. So it's a curriculum, right? You got to go through the steps. You got to go through all this, but yet nobody's learning anything. And now that you went back online through this whole thing, I just think the whole college experience as a whole shifted, because like you said, it's not only about the education, the learning aspect. It was the experience
the social
of it.
aspect. Yeah.
So now we're all at home. We're all locked down. You're with the same friends that you probably went to high school with, or you are local, and you're not able to meet someone new. How do you think that affected you now that it's your senior year? And, everything's lifted, like nothing happened, and everyone's back in person?
Yeah, it took a lot of mental effort just to dig deep inside of me and kind of push that procrastination out, because, with everything online, you did not pay attention at all. And I think it's so sad because I feel like colleges have stopped actually teaching students, and they're just learning to teach students how to regurgitate information and just learn what they need to pass the test. And that's how they're pumping students out, because learning obviously is a lot harder than just memorizing.
Let me stop you right there. That's not how they're pumping students out. It's how they're pumping employees out.
Oh.
They're making employees, not
self-thinkers or entrepreneurs or self-starters.
They're putting employees out there.
And I think, honestly, in today's age, YouTube and books and just finding a community where your passions align would put you in such a better position than college, maybe, for certain people.
Really?
Well, I think about, you went to college, normal experience, right? And you said you didn't use your supply chain major. What would you
No.
have done if you didn't go to college?
That's a great question. I don't know what I would have done because I'm so versatile in different skill sets that I have. Like, I wouldn't mind. Let's see, if I didn't go to college in supply chain, I don't think my UPS job would have been there. Oh, no, it would have because I started that in high school. But I may have pursued that. I may have become a driver. I may have just worked some labor job. Because to be honest, that I was making good money. I was making $33 an hour on some
That's
nights. Yeah,
crazy.
at 17, $33 an hour to sort boxes. So there are great living jobs out there that require just physical labor, and I was okay with that.
And
Like,
that was 8 years ago.
yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So I didn't care. Like, it's nothing where I had to kick my feet up in a nice global tower and, I have my fancy cubicle the whole day. Like, I didn't care about that. Like, I knew if I needed money, I would have gotten it. But in terms of like a full experience, I wouldn't have met the friends that I would have. I wouldn't have met the connections that I still have today that come in handy where I can hit them up and just be like, hey, I need this. Or they're working for another company. Like, hey, how does this company do it? Like, if I didn't go to college, none of that would have ever existed. And I probably would still be in just that labor job or some other entry level position that I could work my way up. But I would be without all the experiences and the knowledge that I gained just from on the job experience, not from the education itself.
Yeah, I like to think because you're in such a big real estate space, and a lot of those people that I've met have not gone to college.
No,
They've dropped out of high school or they didn't even,
just did poorly in high school.
yeah. And I wonder if college is even worth it if you're not trying to be a doctor or an engineer or one of those like cases where you have to be really educated.
Yeah, it's like like the lawyers, doctors, or like some stuff that requires actual training and education versus, say, what I do. I could have, even my supply chain stuff, I could have learned that from YouTube and Google, 100%, without a doubt. It just takes some common sense and some logical thinking for everything that I learned. And because I'm already a logical thinker, it came very natural to me. It felt very easy. And I'm very confident I could have found it online and would have done the job, maybe not as well as I executed in reality, but I'd figure it out eventually. It's different, per se. Like, it's the terms of what a good job is, I think, has shifted to where being a good automotive technician, being a good plumber, being a good electrician isn't as sexy anymore. Like, you gotta walk out with a degree, otherwise you don't make it in the world, quote unquote. And that's what they're just pushing on you, pushing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think here's an unpopular opinion, but I don't think everyone needs to go to college.
It's a lot of money, first of
And
all,
time.
and time. Like 4 years, that's the fastest. 4 years on average. It takes about 5 years for someone to graduate. Right, but 4 years, 4 or 5 years, 6 years of your life gone, and how many thousands of dollars spent, or I guess accumulated in debt for a piece of paper that you go to a job and you make $30,000-$40,000 after taxes for, that you'll forever be stuck in debt as an employee.
Well, here's the thing. If I didn't go the pre-med route, I would 100% go in marketing. And I have that mindset from high school, not even from college, where I just naturally like marketing and design and digital, all that stuff. And I don't think I would need to go to college for that.
I don't think so either. I think you very well could have gotten on-the-job experience because that's honestly the best type of experience out there. And colleges just push that, employers won't respect you if you don't have a degree.
Yeah.
And even though I went to college, I 100% disagree with that because there's, like I said, everyone in my space, there's some that didn't go to college at all. They barely passed high school, yet they're making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. They're financially free. They know what they're doing just because they took action in it. And I really think that the whole COVID era of college kind of put that into perspective to where some people figured it out and were like, what am I paying for? I'm paying for a Zoom link and then what is it? That link you got to pay to like do your homework. And then others are just like, oh, I have to go to college. This is just what it is. I have to go through the steps to go into society, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. When we have kids, I would want them to go to college though.
I'd let them
Just
have a choice.
because, fair, that's fair. But I also think college is a lot more than just learning, it's a lot more of that social aspect. But I think for those that are starters anyways, they can just learn from YouTube or, start small, find a local community of interest that, you're passionate about, and then grow that circle, learn from them.
What was the hardest transition that you had to go through or still are going through from when classes completely shifted online to now everything came back? All within your college experience of 4 years. Like all of this happened in 2 years. This massive switch. Like how did you deal with that? What was the hardest part about that?
I think the hardest part was just feeling alone. Not to be sappy or sad, but,
That's true.
I had a strong group of friends my freshman year, and just seeing random people again and again every day, you just build that connection, that bond with people that you see later on in summer classes. And being pre-med, it's so competitive. I just felt alone all the time just because everyone's trying to one up each other. And so now that I'm in my senior year, it's kind of like I feel behind in a way, but I'm also doing so much more than other people. It's always that level of I need to do more because with everything online, I didn't see my friends that often. I didn't have that social aspect. So it's kind of like my life was kind of consumed by just learning and trying to do better in my classes.
What do you think was the focus level of all that? Because I know from firsthand experience watching you, you did class and you took a remote job at the same time.
Full time.
Full time while all of this was happening. How many others do you think were like you that actually did the same exact thing and maybe they weren't as good of a student as you were in terms of like they didn't keep up with their classwork? What do you think that effect has on what that person could have thought of college?
I think it actually made me stronger in a way because I took 23 credits. And if you don't know, that's like 9 classes, I think, ish.
The full time as defined by, I think, the state of Arizona is 12 credits.
12, yeah.
As a full-time
is
student.
12. So I took almost double that. And working full time, I believe a lot of other students were doing the same thing because their parents lost their jobs or they had to take care of family members. And it was a lot of stress. But I tell people that I took these many credits and they're like, oh my God, Aditi, how did you do that? And I'm like, I just put my head down and just got to work. And it wasn't that hard once I really realized that what I needed to do and what I expected from myself. And I think COVID really made me a diamond in a way because it put so much pressure on me with so many external things that I really couldn't control that I put my head down and realized that if I work my ass off right now in these next 10 years, I have my life set and I'm not going to let COVID get in the way. I need to get this done and I'm going to take advantage of that because everything was online. I took double the amount of classes that people usually do because I knew I didn't have to spend time going between classes or commuting to another campus.
So as you go forward then, and you took advantage of all of this, right? You now are ahead of the game.
Oh yeah,
because you had that huge break. So you took COVID as an advantage to really further your college career. So you have all this now spare time to pick up internships or other jobs related to your field so you can gain that on-the-job experience, right?
Because I think the biggest thing, I don't personally think college will make or break your career. It's mostly the experience. Any career. Maybe being a doctor or a lawyer. But there are other ways to get there, And even with engineers are very highly respected higher up you go. And the biggest thing is experience. It doesn't matter which degree you even graduated with. It's the experience that you build from a young age that really gets you higher up.
It's a weird time to be in college because I think you make a very good point that the on-the-job experience is truly what matters more than really what you know. It's how you know it and how you apply what you know. So for a person that comes out college educated, I'm just like, I don't care. He's like, cool, I'm college educated too. That doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I always thought when I graduated, I just got my diploma from high school. Everyone was like, oh, I'm going here for college. And my first thought was, cool, I'll see you at the same job. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care where you went. So it's just like, cool, you got a degree from Harvard, I got a degree from ASU. Like, hey, welcome, coworker. We're in the same place.
Here's the thing. There's a lot of stigma behind the like Princeton, Harvard, all those schools. And I feel like those classes are obviously a lot harder and you don't have a lot of time to do outside social stuff or experience things like that. Whereas ASU, it's a lot more laid back in a sense, and you have a lot more time and opportunities to get internships. So you see this person who graduated from Harvard with a degree but very little experience because they didn't have time to do outside stuff. And then you have someone who graduated from a state school and had a bunch of opportunities, but obviously did not go to a prestigious school. You know, what would make one candidate more attractive to an employer?
The one who has the experience.
So is it really worth it going to such a prestigious school and risking?
You know what it is though? I figured this out the other day when I was talking. I think I was just brainstorming, just talking out loud with one of the guys in the real estate field. Mm-hmm. We had this conversation about college, but you don't pay to learn and for the classes. You pay for access to the resources that they have.
Oh yeah.
Like it's I almost want to compare this to fraternity and sorority where they say like you pay for friends, but it's like a mastermind for what I learned now. Like I didn't understand masterminds until I got into this entrepreneurship space, and they actually had these things called masterminds, and people pay like $25, $30, $40, $50,000. Yeah, it sounds like an absurd amount of money, right?
I can't imagine.
$50,000 to be in this circle of entrepreneurs and leaders and multi-million-dollar producers. Like think about that, $50,000 just to be around them. But then I figured it out that, oh, dang, you pay that much, but being around this person will give you a piece of advice that will save you 5 years and make you millions in the long term. So I think about that in terms of college. It's, oh yeah, you're paying $30,000, $40,000 a degree for a piece of paper. Sure, you can look at it that way, but you can pay $30,000, $40,000 to use the resources that ASU has or a big university, because if you have ASU, a big name, right? Very well known, respected among the corporate Fortune 50 world. You can definitely ask your advisor, be like, hey, do you have anyone from the Mayo Clinic? Do you have anyone from Apple I can talk to about this? Like, how about UPS, one of the biggest logistics leaders of the world? So you pay to get someone so you can slide by the system. You don't have to interview, and you get to talk to someone right then and there. But that's only if you seize that opportunity.
Yeah, it's only if you're a self-starter. If you have that mindset where you know you want to do more and you have that capability in you.
Yeah. And you made me realize that like throughout my college career, I didn't do as much as you did, but seeing what you do now in terms of talking to your advisors, counselors, and getting involved, like, how many celebrities have you met just doing your activities?
Quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
I reached out to the dean of my honors college my freshman year, and he invited me for lunch and things like that, and he got me a research position.
See, and that's only like, I can't email the dean right now and just be like, hey, bro, can we go to lunch or something? Like, my email's going to go in the spam box, or delete trash, whatever it may be. But you paid to be there, and because you were there, you got noticed, and I'm sure you got a lot of helpful advice, and now you have a contact that if you need something, you just email them and they'll answer.
I will say the hardest thing with COVID is that there were so many resources and so many opportunities. It felt overwhelming. And I feel like I'm one of the first ones to always jump and say yes to everything. But with COVID, I just felt so down, and it was just very overwhelming with all these opportunities. And I think it made me realize that I need to stop saying yes to things and start saying no. So you actually do things that are worth your time instead of just filling up your resume and being like, hey, I graduated and I did a million things, but are they really all meaningful?
Mm-hmm. So would you say that even with COVID, it actually took away your time block and structure to now you didn't have anything and you were just kind of like running with a chicken with its head cut off, right? Like you didn't have that structure of like, hey, class starts at this and this and this. That means I have to get up at this time to commute X amount of time. Now it was literally just, hey, open my laptop, click the link, right?
Yeah, I will say a lot of times when you're at home and probably on your bed watching the Zoom video, you fall asleep. So there were many times where I really didn't pay attention. And if my future medical school is listening to this, then I'm sorry. I did spend a lot of hours after learning and relearning about things. But I think you realize how much you're capable of yourself. And, you know, that's when that like pressure comes in where even if you're on the job and you don't even go to college, you're doing that real life experience, you're going to face those pressures and realize that you can do this much and how you can elevate that to how you can do even more than that.
What a weird time. I think a final point to kind of bring up aside from the education was when you came back, I mean, here in the state of Arizona, the whole entire mask mandate thing got lifted. What was the social stigma like when you're back on campus
Oh, no.
and the laws, quote unquote, say that you didn't have to wear a mask. It was no longer required. Yet you have maybe a 90-10 mix, you know, of people wanting to wear it. And like, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting because at first, when everyone was wearing masks, if you didn't wear a mask, you look like an alien, right? People would stare at you. People would tell you to wear a fucking mask, all this stuff. And now when it was lifted, when people wore masks, if it was like you weren't an alien. And there are many times where I even wore a mask, and I still do sometimes in classrooms. And people look at you like you're absurd, you know? I really don't understand it because it's your own personal safety. Wearing a mask is not going to do anything to you, especially in a school setting. Because trust me, there are some gross people out there. And these are seniors, like juniors and seniors, 22 years old, 21, and they're just so gross. I would rather wear a mask around them.
Listen, there's some very disgusting people out in the world, even older. So, you know, some things just don't change. But I think that goes to show you that college is really a breeding ground for employees that just follow the rules and don't think for themselves. They just follow the rules and do as they're told. And if someone else isn't doing the same thing, then they get all mad like, wait, why aren't you doing it? I have to go through this, so why don't you? Because I had a very different view on masks. You know, I thought they were stupid. I thought they didn't do anything. As soon as I learned to think for myself, I said, fuck this thing. Like, this is stupid. We're taking away the social expressions from the nose down to where, like, a lot of emotion gets portrayed right here, and we covered that up, and, like, we can't see it anymore. We can't interact fully as human beings. But you bring up a good point when you go back to the college setting when everyone's trying to get back to the routine, like, back to normal and just interact like people again. You don't, because some people still choose to wear it because that's just their own personal decision. I'm not hating on it and like, cool. But then other people just force it upon you to do what everyone else is doing.
It's weird because we have a lot of social gatherings with our friends, and even then we'll have a text from someone saying, hey, I got exposed, you know, can we reschedule? Or, hey, I tested positive, I'm so sorry. You know, all this stuff. And it's weird because I don't think too much of it anymore. But you're so conditioned, right? You're just that sheep. I think of it like a Clockwork Orange, if you've read that book. But you should read it. Clockwork Orange, I highly recommend. It's a fantastic but very gory novel. But you know, society conditions you and college conditions you to just follow the rules. And once the rules stop, then you're kind of like a chicken with its head cut off. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do
with yourself because you haven't been taught to think for yourself, analyze the situation and make your own opinions.
And I think College is not the end all be all. There are so many thousands, if not millions, of kids who didn't want to go to college when COVID hit. And I think that's fair. You can do a million other things. You can be successful even if you're a high school dropout.
Oh, 100%. You have many cases that are that way, for sure. Because you know what I learned? The people that drop out of high school sometimes they're very hard workers. And that's really what it takes to succeed. If I'm being truly honest, you just got to be a hard worker and do it all the time, the same effort, which is none less than 110%.
And I think that when you are at your lowest, you realize that you can do so much more than what you thought you could. You know, just with my classes, I was taking the normal amount, but I realized that I could push myself even more and even more. And people think you're crazy, but it just goes to show that people are so conditioned to realize that this is a normal and you can't do any more than that.
So for the high school senior out there or someone that's looking to get back into college at this state of society and how it is, what would you say to that person?
Really dig deep and figure out what you really want to do and what impact you want to give to people around you, and realize if you have the passion and the motivation to do it yourself, then do it. You don't need to spend money or spend time in a college setting where all you're going to do is get a diploma.
I'm going to leave it on those thoughts. I can't top that one. That was good. Well, guys, that was Everyday Hustle, and I think a very interesting topic on today's society of what college is like, what higher education is like in the debate about, what is that? Student loan forgiveness, you know, all this stuff. It's
God.
That's another conversation for another day. But that's a very unique perspective from someone who went through everything from the normalcy to then full lockdown to now somewhat ramping back to normalcy. I think it's going to give the people a very different perspective, especially having this open conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opening thing, and just learning from other people's experiences.
Beautiful. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this show, if you enjoyed listening to our thoughts, give it a share, give us a like. You know, we want to spread the word. We want to have more conversations. We want to have more topics. We want to just discuss the things openly from what other people think. So if we were able to do that for you today, we would appreciate it if you could just share with a friend.
Yeah, let us know if you think college is worth it or not, and what you learned from your own college experience if you went.
Very true. Well, until next time, everybody, get out there, be nice to one another. Oh, that's Ellen's thing.
Is it?
Yeah, that is
I
Ellen's
don't know.
thing. Sorry, Ellen. Yeah, you know what, guys?
Canceled. Go out there and keep having those everyday conversations. We love you guys out there that are listening.
Catch you guys next time.